It's still unclear what motivated an American Army psychiatrist to go on a shooting rampage at a US military base. The Muslim Army major shot dead 13 people and wounded another 30 at Fort Hood in Texas. Most of the dead were fellow soldiers preparing to leave for war zones. The doctor's family says he was being harassed because of his Middle Eastern background. John Stewart reports.
For a moment, Fort Hood seemed to be under attack. SWAT teams rushed to the base after receiving reports of a mass shooting. The huge military base was locked down.
Attention! Seek shelter immediately.
A lone gunman with 2 pistols had fired at a group of soldiers, having their final medical checks before being deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. More than a dozen were killed and many more were wounded.
It's a terrible tragedy. It's stunning. As I say, as I've gone around to the hospital here, as I've been at the scene, soldiers and family members and many of the great civilians that work here are absolutely devastated.
The shooter was later identified as a 39-year-old Army psychiatrist, Major Nidal Malik Hassan. At first it was reported that he'd been killed, but 5 hours later it emerged that Hassan had been shot by a female police officer and was still alive.
He was not killed as previously reported. He is currently in custody and in stable condition.
Major Hassan was born in America. At Fort Hood he treated soldiers suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, returning from combat zones. This morning he was captured on security video at this convenience store buying a drink. The Army psychiatrist is a Muslim and was wearing white robes. Major Hassan's cousin says that he was due to be sent on a mission to Iraq, but he didn't want to go. The cousin also claims that Major Hassan was being harassed because of his family's Middle Eastern background.
You know, both of his parents are American. I want to make sure everybody understands he is a good American, and we are shocked. We just found out on the news that he was being deployed. He never even told us because we've known for the last 5 years that was probably his worst nightmare. He was dealing with some harassment in some of his with some of his military colleagues.
Military leaders were reluctant to describe the attack as an act of terrorism.
It's a possible terrorist act.
I couldn't rule that out, but I'm telling you that right now the evidence does not suggest that.
The president was briefed as the tragedy unfolded.
It's difficult enough when we lose these brave Americans in battles overseas. It is horrifying that they should come under fire at an Army base on American soil.
With 40,000 soldiers, Fort Hood is America's largest military base. Since the attacks of September 11, Fort Hood has played a key role in fighting America's so-called war on terror. 483 Fort Hood soldiers were killed in Iraq. Another 20 have died in Afghanistan.
I don't believe for a second that a soldier could do this to another soldier.
My daughter's just inside a building, you know, and some people have lost their fathers and their mothers today, and that's horrible.
The FBI is investigating the shooting. It's still unclear what motivated Major Hassan to turn on his fellow soldiers. John Stewart, Lateline.